Family-centered, Christian-based, grown in the heart of the Midwest. Talking to people from all walks of life.
The world needs more encouraging stuff, honest conversation. I always put my biblical spin on everything because that's my foundation. My name's Bubba. What is up?
Actually, today I've coached 6 basketball games. I had my 6th grade girls team at UNI, and then had my 8th grade boys B team, kind of a lot of local small town kids at the Sportsplex in Waterloo. So
okay,
yeah, both teams went 2-1, lost in the championship. So I know it.
It's nice to get there.
Yeah, it is. The 6th grade girls team that I have is actually it's like all Dunkerton kids and one Wapsie Valley girl.
Okay.
And we lost to Cedar Falls' best 6th grade girls team by 2. So I mean, it's not nothing.
That's
to hang
a win.
That's
a win.
It's nothing to hang our heads on. But
all right, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the best, fastest growing real life podcast on the market. Today's guest is going to make sure that 2026 is a slam dunk. You like the little basketball thing?
Yeah, absolutely,
there? Huh?
absolutely.
See? You may know him as a Dunkerton basketball legend who went on to play some college ball, but he's now pouring into young athletes by running and coaching his own AAU league for kids. And as with a lot of young men his age, he realized that high school wasn't all there is when it comes to life. He realized that there is something much bigger than himself or any of his accomplishments. I guess you could say, in a way, he knows what is up. Casey Gardner, what is up, man?
Not too much. Busy coaching basketball. Like I told you earlier, just came from about 2 basketball tournaments today.
Yeah.
And then tryouts last night, tryouts tomorrow.
Man, always busy. For the audience, this dude pulls up my street in a minivan, in a nice minivan. And I said, I don't think Casey's got kids. So I had to ask him. He's like, nope. Grandma's van, she's loaning it to me, but it sure comes in handy when you're coaching kids, man. You fill up that van. So
absolutely.
I get it. So to my audience, if you're new to the podcast, maybe you stumbled onto us by mistake. Maybe the algorithm actually worked in my favor for once instead of against me all the time. Maybe the only reason you're here is because of Casey. I don't care why you're here. I promise you're in the right place. There's no mistakes. Stick around, okay? We're glad to have the chance to win you over and earn your support. We're trying to create something good here that is the perfect trifecta. It's encouraging, challenging, and entertaining all at the same time. So if you like what you hear today, don't be ashamed to hit that like, follow, or subscribe button wherever you're listening or watching. And please give us that 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's like gold to me right there. Okay? Maybe even leave a nice comment on YouTube. We're all video now, so go to YouTube, leave a nice comment. For bonus content or merch giveaways, we got some giveaways coming up. Daily episode teaser reels. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I don't think you'll be disappointed by anything we put out there. So feel free to go all the way back to the beginning. It was kind of crummy setup in the beginning, but hey, it's still good content, and consume as much of that early stuff as you want. But let's get this episode started right now. All right, Casey, before we get into your story and we talk about what it was like growing up and what got you to where you are today, just short answer, let's tell the audience who you are and what you do, and then we'll dive deep.
Yeah, so I'm Casey Gardner. I'm 21 years old, so still fairly young. I have 2 step siblings. I've been an only child most of my life. For a career, I run my own AAU basketball program. It is called Pure Point Basketball. Right now we have 2 8th grade boys teams, a 6th grade girls team, and then I also help out with Dunkerton's junior high basketball team as a volunteer. So my hobbies and interests, I just love anything that's a challenge.
Okay.
I have taught myself how to juggle, solve Rubik's Cubes. I'm big into golf. That's super fun, trying to chase that record low. And then obviously I'm a basketball nerd. I'm doing something basketball every day, multiple times a day. So really, really into sports, challenges, and anything that I stink at, I hate losing. So I try to learn it.
Okay. All right. Now I'm with you. All right. I got a feeling golf is coming for me one of these days, man. I was big into... I got big into 5Ks, and then that got boring, and I got into triathlon, and that's when the competition bug really hit. And now that I can't really do that anymore, the more I try and get in shape, the more my body says, bro, you're too old to be doing this. So I got a feeling golf is coming, but I'm scared to get out there until I have some lessons.
I gotcha. I played my sophomore year of golf, or my sophomore year of high school. I played golf, and I didn't after that. It was just too hard.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. It was too much of a challenge. I Funny story. I actually was our school's #1 golfer. The top 3 were all like hurt, and
Oh, boy.
I had a really good round at practice going into our first meet, and I was a #1 golfer, and I'm used to basketball. It's right after my sophomore year, and I had a very successful year in basketball. And I get there, and I shoot like a 65, and there are all these kids, or 3 kids that I played with that were like 35, 36, and 36 through 9 holes. And so I just got whooped to the point of where their families were starting to cheer for me, and they were like telling me nice shot when I finally got a good one, and it just drove me crazy because I was much more of a competitor then than I am now. Now I'm obviously more bought into the process of things versus just the end results, but that just killed me when I was golfing in high school. But this last summer I got bit by the bug again and really, really started to get after it and be out there. I had a membership at the Jessup Golf Course and was there basically every day trying to chase that low. But.
Working on your craft. I like it. I like it. All right. Well, if that don't interest you guys, I guess you can tune out. But hey, I'm telling you, this is going to be good. Pure Point AAU League. Let's go. We're going to get into all this stuff. Let's talk about your life story. What makes you who you are? Let's go all the way back to the childhood, man. What was it like?
Yeah. So like I said, I was the only child for most of my childhood. 3 uncles, Shane, Tyler, and Derek Gamerdinger. They were kind of like my big brothers. They were in high school when Derek, the youngest one, graduated when I think I was in 6th grade. So they were fairly older than me, but young enough to the point to where I could play sports with them. And I really just looked up to those 3 guys. I still do in a tremendous amount. They really, really played that big brother role for me.
Yeah.
I remember I would play football and basketball at my grandma's house, their mom's house. They would get on their knees because I was much shorter than them, and we would play basketball until either Grandpa Tony yelled at us that we were being too loud or their knees started bleeding. So I just was on them to do as much as we could. But yeah, so I was the only child. Those guys were my big brothers. Played sports nonstop and just hated losing. Very, very typical. You see in a lot of the competitive kids. But yeah, I hated to lose. Grew up. My dad always says baseball was my best sport.
Okay.
Growing up, I couldn't stand it. It was so slow paced and just we weren't very good at Dunkerton. And growing up and stuff, and it was just too slow paced for me. I just couldn't get behind it. Ended up playing that through my sophomore year, but I didn't take it as serious as I would have liked to. Probably 6th grade and up. Junior high started to get just more of a thing that my parents made me do versus something I actually enjoy.
Yeah.
But football was always my favorite sport growing up. Yeah, I loved Barry Sanders and all them guys, Ray Lewis, Peyton Manning, all them guys. I just loved them. I was a huge football guy. Really, a lot of my sports just came with playing with friends in school. The little churchyard in Dunkerton, right on Dunkerton Road. We would play football there all the time.
Yep.
We would go play basketball in people's driveways. Took it way too serious. Caden Barons, who you had on the show, he had a full court set up in his backyard, just cement, two hoops that we could lower to 8 foot so we could dunk, and we would just play for hours. I vividly remember it being snow on the ground, ice on the ground, and in the middle of winter, and we would go play basketball there after school till the varsity game started. And we would just play, and then we would go and we would go to the bathroom and dry off all of our clothes from the snow and the ice, and then we would watch the high school team play.
Yeah. If you guys aren't in the area, Dunkerton is a basketball school through and through, man.
Absolutely. And I hope that more interest grows in a lot of those sports. There are a lot of good coaches there right now trying to invest in the youth and interest people. Bryce Rigdon's doing a really good thing with the weight room, getting junior high kids in there and just building good habits with that. He does a ton of stuff for the youth, and he's awesome. So there's a lot of good role models for the other sports there right now. A lot of good coaches on the high school staffs trying to really build that same culture for other sports and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I would say about 5th grade, I truly fell in love with basketball. When we got to junior high, we didn't lose a game.
Okay.
That obviously helped. And then we were playing on the weekends. I think 6th grade through 8th grade, just to Dunkerton kids alone, we were playing 50 games a summer, tournaments and all that good stuff. And then, that was just kind of what my friend group really bonded on. We all wanted to make the state tournament as seniors, and we didn't really care who won, who succeeded, who was the leading scorer, all that good stuff. We all just had the common goal of wanting to win as much as possible.
Yeah.
Which was really special. I got blessed with a good group of guys, good coaches growing up. My dad coached us growing up, so I was a coach's kid.
Yeah.
I remember him bringing me out into the hallway and just yelling at me till some other parent came over, but I knew that he wanted the best for me, and it was out of love and seeing the potential of all of us and all that good stuff. All the parents of the other kids really bought into how he coached and his fiery spirit, and it really, really helped us out in the long run.
Sure.
Didn't really lose any games in junior high. Granted, we were playing against 1A schools, but then we would, like I said, at those tournaments, we would play against Waterloo and Cedar Falls teams, and we would compete and win a lot of those games.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really important, especially for the small school areas, to get out and play those big games. So, you have a team that gets in the districts and you're playing against big physical teams.
Yeah.
You're not afraid.
Yep.
You're
You've been
not
there.
worried
You've
about
been
it.
there.
Right,
You've been
exactly.
tested.
Yep, absolutely,
Sure.
absolutely. Junior high, I stopped playing football because of a neck injury. My top two vertebrae are fused together, and I got a stinger. Couldn't get it fixed. My 8th grade year of football, and then got that X-ray, and they said, "Hey, you're really prone to neck injuries because of this." So I kind of just called it quits for football right there.
Did they take the disc out and put a new one in, or they just
No, so they kind of just left it and said, "You're more prone to neck injuries than other people.
Okay.
You can play football." They mentioned me wearing one of those big neck pads to kind of limit movement, but I took that big hit, and I was kind of just ready to move on from it.
Because I got a couple fused together. I got 3 fused
gotcha.
together. They took out 2 discs, and first thing when I started having the pain, the doctor was, my wife goes with me, and he goes, "Any car accidents lately? This was 7 years ago maybe."
Yeah.
So I wasn't in school, obviously. And as soon as he said car accident, maybe a sports injury from high school, my wife just rolled her eyes. She's like, "Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, he'll tell you all about it. He was Mr. Football, whatever." No, it had nothing to do with that. I don't know. But yeah, neck injuries are no joke. They told me, like, if you go to the chiropractor, he can't touch anything from the neck up.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, no crack. I mean, 3 vertebrae fused, 2 new discs. That's a pretty solid piece of titanium in there.
Right,
You can't try and twist that to relieve any pressure. Just leave it. So yeah, when you said something about that, I was like, okay, another neck surgery. I got it. Okay.
Yep. So that kind of put an end to my football career.
Oh man.
Yeah, I quit playing after that.
So who did you look up to at those kind of years, elementary and going into junior high? Who were you looking up to?
Yeah, so like I said, when I was really young, it was my uncles. My uncle Derek was on the 2014 state basketball team.
Okay.
For Dunkerton. Corey Kensling was on there. Bryce Rigdon, the coach now at Dunkerton that I was just talking about, was on that team.
Okay.
When I got to junior high, Brady Hopple, Tylen Williams, Zach Johnson, them guys, Brady Stone, them guys were kind of the studs in high school. They made sub-state 3 years. They broke a ton of records.
Yeah.
They played super fast, super flashy, and it was just really, really fun to watch. We looked up to them a ton.
Okay.
And it's funny because people compare stats and people ask us all these questions, but me and my friend group talk about this all the time. In my grade, Preston Gillespie, who had a tremendous career there, it's just like we could never ever put ourselves above them guys, because when we were little, those were the guys. Those were the guys.
Yep.
And it's just it's surreal to go through the same things they did and to fulfill some of the stuff we looked up to, and it just seems like they're on another level.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Brian Brungard was another one. He's
a
kind
legend.
of he's kind of the undisputed GOAT at Dunkerton. Just
I love it. I love it.
He really is. I mean, I was chasing all his records. He came to a ton of our games from even 5th grade up. He something that really inspired me with him was he's a teacher at Dunkerton now, and I was kind of talking to Todd Kuntz, who was my coach, and he said how Brungard gets there at 5 a.m. every day to prepare his stuff for today, and just a high-level guy. And that was kind of when it really started to click for me when I heard that in high school. It was probably not till my junior year of how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yep.
If you're slacking off in a ton of areas of your life, you're not going to reach your goals in one area. So that was really inspiring to hear, just a middle school teacher getting there 3 hours early every day just to do some schoolwork.
Great example, dude. Doesn't get better than Brian Brungard. Shout out, Brian. former podcast guest. I can't remember what episode it was. I got to get better at remembering that. But guys, go back and check that out. Brian, I haven't forgot. I still owe you a shirt. You said that large just didn't fit your muscular frame. So your shirt's coming, buddy. It's coming. Don't worry. One question I like to ask kids that are, we're heavily involved in sports, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about this in your What Is Up topic.
Yeah.
Did you find time, or do you remember there being enough joy in the youth sports? Because like you said, when you're getting yelled at and you're getting pushed by a coach, now, hey, dad or coach, he's trying to get the best out. He's trying to get me to focus. He's trying to get me to realize things. And I get that and I understand that. But at times, too, it feels like sometimes, man, at some point, the kid's got to actually enjoy it. Because I see a lot of the athletes at Wapsie now, more of the football players. That's really the ones that I'm the closest to. And at some point, you got to start having conversations like, hey, you're supposed to work hard. You're supposed to push yourself to be the best you can be and surprise yourself. But it's also got to be fun. Don't forget about the fun. If it's not joyful, like winning makes everything fun. It really does.
Yeah.
But Wapsie won at a high level this year for football, and some of our kids needed to be reminded it's got to be fun at some point too.
Absolutely.
So, do you remember that kind of growing up? Because it's supposed to be fun when you're a kid, but now with youth sports, it's kind of like, wait a minute, we can be this good, we can be this competitive. You're already starting to look to high school and competing at a high level. Well, that almost tends to start robbing the joy out of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I would say the biggest thing for how my dad coached and what I try to carry over as well as when I was a player and as a coach now and a role model is while you're doing the critiquing, right? Because it's very necessary to critique as a coach.
Yeah.
You have to be the first person to help them up as well. You have to be the first person to congratulate them as well. You have to be the first person to give them a high five when they do the right thing and show that side of it. It also comes with understanding of the game. Like there are a lot of basketball coaches that will yell at kids for missing open shots or good shots. I don't believe in that. Okay. Shots will fall, shots won't fall. That's not super controllable in the basketball world. Like for football, you could compare it to running a great route and the pass gets tipped at the line. I mean, yes, there are things to prevent that and practice techniques for that, but ultimately that's just a play that happens in football sometimes. And same thing for basketball. If someone runs a really good action in basketball, gets a good layup and it just rolls off the rim and doesn't go in, I mean, I'm clapping and saying, good, hey, that's fine. That's what we want. If we get 40 layups in a game, we're going to make 35 of them. Yep. But there's also going to be times where we get 40 layups and we only make 20 of them. Yeah. So I've been blessed to be coached by a lot of coaches that understand it's process driven. It's not necessarily result driven. So I feel like that. So
I like that. I like that. Process driven, not results driven. Because earlier you said something about culture. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing, especially like with say Dunkerton football. Tough year this year. Mm-hmm. Didn't have the numbers, whatever. If you want to change the culture and get these kids excited, it's the process.
Absolutely.
The results don't come before the process.
Absolutely.
Get the process installed. The results will come. Then you've got the culture.
Yep, absolutely.
And then it's just a freaking merry-go-round at that point, man. Hop on. Everyone get on.
I feel like that's kind of what kept the joy in it was understanding that it's the process of doing the right things. When we got yelled at, it was because we were being knuckleheads. We weren't giving full effort, or maybe being a little bit selfish, pouting, arguing with refs, not defending, stuff that you can control. If that makes sense. So I felt like that helped keep the joy in it as youth sports. And like I said, we just loved it. It was all we did. It was all we cared about as kids. We just loved it.
What? Give me some examples, and you can take time to think if you need to, but because I'm putting you on the spot. In all those years of traveling and playing with a similar group of kids, before you start getting into high school or whatever, what were some of the, give me like a fun memory or what you enjoyed the most or something, non-basketball court related?
Yeah, I gotcha. And that's the thing that we talk about right now, looking back at those times, is it's not really the stuff that happened on the court. It was all the stuff in the hotel rooms at AAU tournaments and all of that good stuff. Like I remember one time we were at a hotel and we were in our hotel room playing basketball. They had like a ledge that came down above the curtain and we had just, I don't know, this this inflatable ball. It wasn't an actual basketball, but we're just in there, I mean, playing for hours, dribbling the ball on the floor, shoving each other as hard as we can. And there aren't any coaches, any parents in the room, and we get a knock and we're like, all right, well, now Coach Doug's here. So we go to open it, and it's hotel security, and we're a bunch of fifth graders.
Quiet down, kids.
Yep, and we're a bunch of fifth graders at a tournament. I just remember looking and turning to the guys and be like, guys, it's not my dad.
Yeah.
What do we want to do? So then we all kind of talked about who was going to go talk to him and all this stuff, and they just asked us to be quiet. But those are kind of the stuff that we really do remember. Or being at, like I said, Caden Barron's house, or the Shimps had a house with a full court that we played at all the time, and kind of the silly arguments and fights we would get into as kids and all that good stuff.
That's what, if you listen to retired athletes, say a couple years, 5 years out of the whatever league, that's usually what they say they miss the most. You're always going to remember that game or that play or whatever, but the things they miss, it's the camaraderie in the locker room or on the road or traveling, just being with the guys. And they're not with the guys anymore. That's what they miss the most. So
absolutely.
That's cool how that works.
Yeah, absolutely.
At any level, it seems. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's keep moving, man. So then what? Into high school and...
Yeah, so then we get into high school. Like I said, I did other sports in high school. I wish I took them more seriously. Just there are so many benefits that come from doing all sports, and just being able to look back. Like I was a solid athlete, and I probably could have helped out a lot more teams than I could have. I'll never forget, after my freshman year of baseball, we got upset in the first round of districts. It was a play-in game, I guess I should say. We played against a team that didn't win a game all year. Myself included, didn't take them very seriously, and we got done, and I hated baseball. I talked about it to everybody. I just complained. I slacked off. I was not a good teammate. I was not a good leader on the baseball field. I'm the first to admit that. And we ended up losing that game to that team that nobody thought we were going to lose to. And I just remember being in the huddle after, like, man, I took this for granted. I took this season, this opportunity for granted. Whether we won one game or a million games, like you said, you just never get that time back. I'll never play a competitive baseball game again, more than likely. So I do wish that I gave more effort to those other sports, and that's what I try to talk to. I have a little stepbrother that's in 8th grade, and he is a basketball geek just like me, and doesn't really care for a lot of the other sports. He's pretty solid in football, but just doesn't really like baseball, doesn't really like track. I'm starting to try to get him into golf a little bit, but he's starting in 8th grade. So I'm trying to make sure that he experiences all the things to the fullest amount that he can.
Sure.
Get to high school and really, really focus on basketball at this point. One of my biggest goals to get to high school, kind of in junior high, was to start varsity as a freshman. Okay. I knew that Hopple and Zach Johnson and a lot of the guys that played when I was in junior high graduated my 8th grade year. So it was a completely new team my freshman year. So it was one of my goals to really, really just prepare for that and try to get the most minutes that I could. And I was really, really blessed. I had a coach that believed in me, teammates that believed in me, that bought into a freshman playing point guard. I started everything all summer coming out of my 8th grade year at the high school team camps and all that. Okay. And then I started varsity as a basketball freshman, led the team in minutes my freshman year. We didn't have the greatest year in the world. I think it was like 11-13 or something like that. But it was a really good year, really good learning experience. Got to, I'm 14 years old playing against some 18-year-olds. So it was definitely different than anything I've done before in AAU or just playing against your age group as a kid.
Yeah. Do you remember, was there any other freshmen that started varsity point guard? Did you ever research it?
So, yes. So Brian Brungard started after Christmas break, I think he said, his freshman year. Okay. But I couldn't find anybody that started right away as a freshman. Okay. And that was a big part of my career, was kind of looking into the records, looking into who accomplished what and who did these things and what type of – that was one of my biggest things, was looking into the records, looking into who accomplished what and kind of how other careers went, and just trying to chase it, just trying to really, really learn from them guys and like I said, just chase their records. And I had every single year I had a picture of the record wall, and that was something I worked towards every single day. I wanted to really, really just fulfill as much as I could and as a Dunkerton basketball player, because like you said, Dunkerton's a basketball school.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember being one of the little kids looking up to high schoolers, and I remember being a high schooler walking through the elementary lunchroom when they're having stuff, and everybody runs to the end of the table to give high fives and all that good stuff. So that was something I really, really was looking forward to and enjoyed out of being in high school, was just kind of being that role model and someone that kids looked up to and trying to be the best example that I could be for them guys.
Sure. Oh, that's a good way to look at it. And that, to be honest, that doesn't always happen. Small school or big school. Once you kind of realize, hey, I'm a bit of a dog here. Maybe I'm the top dog. Maybe if I'm a dog, period. A lot of times, bro, that stuff kind of goes to your head, and yeah, maybe you give the little kids a bone, you know. But as far as anyone close to you, it usually it goes the other way, and that's not right. So it sounds like you have your head on right. So my thought would be, I don't know if he was a freshman or not, but I'm gonna go back to early to mid 90s or mid to late 90s. Shane Leanow.
Okay.
He was my grade. I'm not sure. He maybe was like a Brungard where he got in at some point his freshman year and took over. I don't know. So I'm going to give you some homework. Go back and see if Shane Leanow's name comes up anywhere. Maybe it wasn't until he was a sophomore. I don't know. But bro, it's always been basketball. And us football players loved going to those basketball games, and just you could be rowdy.
Yeah,
I mean, you
absolutely.
really could be. I mean, I was telling my kid today, Wapsie started out on this tear, just beating everybody, and then we've dropped a few games as of late, and it's kind of like, now's the time you want to learn that you aren't invincible. Get those things figured out pre-tournament kind of thing. But he said, yeah, it was just crazy. We were winning the whole game, and then they hit one shot, and they hit another three, and then a turnover. And it's like the fans in basketball can be as big a part of swinging the momentum as the players.
Oh, absolutely.
One or two things happen on the court, and if the fans are behind it, bro, in a gym, all of a sudden that team just feels it. You can feel it slipping away, and it's almost like there's nothing you can do. We know you make your shot.
Right.
Don't turn the ball over, man. But it's just funny. Basketball is that sport built on momentum, man. Sometimes it feels, I'm sure you had nights where just everything was falling, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Everything was going in. It was like, bro, you guys, I almost feel bad for you because and then there's other nights where it's like you can feel that team just starting to suck the life out of the gym. It's like, hang on, this ain't going the right way. But
yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's why Dunkerton has been so successful in a lot of the basketball years, is because we have a community that gets behind us.
it.
Oh,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Something I like to tell everybody about the Dunkerton community was when we made the state tournament. So our population is like 750. And when we made the state tournament, I think we sold like 1,100 shirts. We sold more shirts than we had population in our town. So I mean, if that doesn't just speak to the Dunkerton community,
It does.
and how much they support the basketball program.
And here's what I like. Here's a little memory for you. So like our church, First Baptist Church in Dunkerton, we always have this little ministry called Men's Prayer Breakfast. Saturday morning, 7 a.m. If it's your turn to cook, you show up at 6. Start cooking. Guys would start showing up at 6:15, 6:30, get the coffee going. And it's older guys. I get it. Like at the time I was definitely the youngest, probably in my late 20s, mid 20s, whatever. Never too young to come to Jesus. Doesn't matter if it's only old people in your church or not.
Absolutely.
But we'd sit around and I'd listen to these old boys start talking, and guess what? If it was basketball season, Russ Walker would be talking about, did you see that game last night? The Kunzling boys. He'd say Kunzling every time. I was like, bro, it's Kinsling. It's Kinsling. Their dad is Kenny Kinsling, right? I think the younger Kunzling boy, I think he's more aggressive than the older one. But, the older one's going to college and this and that. And that Brungard and this. I mean, it's just like out of a movie. The old boys just love talking that Dunkerton basketball, man.
Oh, absolutely.
They'd go to the games. I love it. It's kind of like last one out of town, shut the lights off at an away game thing.
Yep.
That's kind of how the Dunkerton fans were.
Absolutely.
And still are, I guess.
So then sophomore year comes around, and this is kind of when it really started to take off for me. I think we went like 17-6 maybe my sophomore year. So we didn't get the 20 win mark, but we had a solid year. We went undefeated in conference that season, and a lot of people say a lot of stuff about the Iowa Star North, but Janesville was really, really talented that year. They were ranked in the top 10 both times we played them. We got them both times. They had a really good class. The grade below me, or the grade above me, the class of 2022, they had a bunch of talented kids. And they had a couple really good kids in my grade as well. So they were a really talented team. And for us to sweep them that year was a huge accomplishment. Nobody thought that we were going to win the conference that year. And that was another thing that I can't think of a team that went undefeated in a conference season at Dunkerton in a really, 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 really long time. I asked Brungard about it, obviously. He said that they lost to Sumner or Fredericksburg at the time or whatever it was, and they were in the conference, and that was their one loss that year. They won the state tournament, obviously.
Oh, with that one loss. Yep.
Obviously a bigger accomplishment than just winning conference, but they had that conference loss. And then in 2014, when we had the really good team that made the state tournament and got second in the state tournament, they lost to Meskwaki that year, who was a part of the North at the time. And that was one of their two losses. The other one was a state championship game. So I couldn't find a team that made it undefeated in conference at Dunkerton. And that was just kind of something, like, I always thought that stuff was cool. You know, like I said, I like to chase history and a lot of that stuff. So my sophomore year started again. Preston Gillespie was a sophomore that started with me that year. So we started to really click that season. He averaged a lot of points, probably 15 points a game as a sophomore. So I believe it was my first game of my sophomore year. I had 12 assists, and that was the school record. I tied with Brady Hopple for the school record the very first game of the year. Obviously, that kind of ticked me off a little bit. I wanted to beat it.
Heck yeah.
And the next game was, I would say, my first really big game of my career in high school. I think it was 24-15 against Tripola. That was the second or third game of the year, and that broke the assist record.
Okay.
And that was kind of the game where I realized that, okay, this is kind of the level you got to play at. You know, I'd like to hold myself to a high standard. I was a competitor. I like to compete. If there was any room for competition, if somebody looked at me the wrong way, it's funny because people look at that MJ documentary, The Last Dance, and he said that he took, you know, there would be something as silly as an opponent coming up to him and asking him, you know, hey, what's going on, Mike? Like, acting like friends. Like, I was the same way. I didn't want to be friends with anybody I competed with. I just wanted to compete. So I would say that Tripola game was the first big game I had, and that kind of led me into just the satisfaction of just dominating. And I really, really bought into kind of being the guy on offense, and the ball ran through me. And I played a lot like that growing up. I was always a pass-first guy, which made it easy to have the ball in my hands because, you know, I was trying to hit the open guy all the time.
Okay.
I was much bigger passer than I was scorer ever.
Okay.
We dropped a lot of games that year that I thought we shouldn't have. And that was kind of the moment where not just me, but a lot of us, I think we were ready to start winning very seriously. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we were all over the gym that summer. I'll never forget texting Bryce Rigdon and Dan Kniebel and Todd Kuntz and Brian Brungard and all these guys and just annoying the crap out of them to open the gym to get us in there whenever we could, whether it was before open gyms, after. Brian Brungard, So actually going back to that Brian Brungard comment I made earlier about him getting there at 5 a.m, what started that was me asking Kuntz, hey, what's some gym time we could get open? And he said, well, Brungard gets there really early at school. Yeah. So there were a lot of mornings where he got there at 5 a.m. and did his schoolwork on his laptop, and me and Preston or whoever else would go just get shots up. And we would just be in the gym and use that as an opportunity to get better. And that kind of started after that sophomore year loss. Okay. So then it brings up to my junior year, and that was when me and Preston had really big years. We both made All-State that year.
Yeah.
Yep. I think we went 22-4 that year. One of our losses was sub-state. One was to a 4A school. Oh, man, I can't remember the other two, but we had a really good year.
Yeah.
Preston broke the record for points in a season that year. I broke my own assist record for assists in a season. It was 150 before me. I had 170 my sophomore, and then I had 232 my junior year. So I had a pretty solid year. I think I averaged 18 and 8 maybe. Like I said, we both made All-State, won 22 games, made it to sub-state, just ran into a buzzsaw and a Lake Mills team that year. They were extremely talented. They hung up like 80 on us. They shot like 60% from three and like 65 from the field that game. Just one of those games where they couldn't miss. And they were much bigger, much stronger than us. And so that one stung obviously really bad too. We were all there. We beat Newman Catholic the game before that, and they were ranked higher than Lake Mills. And this was before they had seeded sub-states. So nowadays they do it a lot better where they separate the top 8 seeds.
Okay.
And back then we were ranked like 6th. Lake Mills was ranked 5th, and I think Newman Catholic was ranked 3rd, and we were all in the same sub-state.
Oh.
So we upset Newman Catholic in the district final, and they whooped us earlier in the regular season. So that was a really, really big win. And then just got whooped in the sub-state game. They hung up like 80. We couldn't hold on. They shot it really well. They were just the better team that game.
Yeah.
So that one really, really stung. But then once again, it was a big summer for us. Just nose down.
Yep.
One more year.
Back to
our
work.
Senior year, absolutely. Then senior year came around, and that was really fun. We finished the regular season, I think, 22-1. Our only loss was to second-ranked North Lynn. My senior year was when I really started to score the ball a lot. I was being much more aggressive, scoring the ball. I had a mid-range shot that I loved. It still is my favorite shot in basketball. When I play with some of the kids, some of the teams and stuff, if I still get that shot off, I feel like it's going in, and that's just kind of. I felt like I could control my mid-range shot a ton, and I've always enjoyed that aspect of basketball. I feel like it's a little overlooked nowadays with 3-pointers or layups, but
Yep.
which it does have a lot of truth to it. But like I said, just the confidence of being able to get that mid-range shot off was extremely important in my career, and I'm not sure what it was about the mid-range shot, but like I said, I feel like no matter how contested it was, if I could get it off, I felt like it was a good look. Like I said, I had coaches that believed in me, teammates that believed in me. Jaden Downs is one of the most unselfish teammates I've ever had in my life. He was in my grade. I'll never forget, I took a really bad shot. I was really hot this game. I think I finished with 41. And I drove right, spun into like a step back, double team mid range. And it ended up going in. And I seen Jaden out of the corner of my eye kind of last minute, and he was wide open. His guy ran at me to double. And I was like, oh, my bad, Jay. He's like, dude, take that shot. Take it. he was like, dude, shoot it. So I was really, really blessed with some good teammates and good coaches that believed in me. I think I was averaging like 26 points a game and 13 assists, which was, I think the points was like 5th in the state and assists was 1st. And it was looking really, really good. And then I actually got hurt my senior year. It was the only time I've ever missed a high school basketball game. I dislocated my shoulder in a game. It was some of the best basketball I was ever playing. Bryce Rigdon actually tells me he thinks I was going to win Class 1A Player of the Year, which ultimately doesn't matter. But I was playing really, really good basketball.
Yeah.
I had a 46-point game against Denver, and then a 41-point game against Don Bosco. With like a 30 and a 26-point game in between leading up to the injury. So it was kind of one of those stretches where, like what we were talking about earlier, where I felt if I could get a shot up, it was going in.
Yeah.
And I got hurt against Waterloo Christian, sat out for 4 games, and then came back against Don Bosco, and that was the game before North Lynn. And North Lynn was kind of my target to get back. They were just extremely well coached. I want to say we were up probably 10 at halftime of that game, and I think we were ranked 4th and they were ranked 3rd. It was at Dunkerton. It was just a massive game. The crowd was insane, and we were up like 7 going into that 4th, and once again, I feel like I wasn't at my best. I was fresh off the injury, just kind of out of shape. They were full court pressing me the whole game, running doubles at me as soon as I crossed half court. So it was a long game, and they got really hot in the 4th quarter, and they came back and won. And that was our one regular season loss. But then we kind of got through the rest of the year, and it was kind of the thing that I heard Brungard talk about on your podcast, and we kind of talked about it earlier, where we were so focused on the end goal. I feel like maybe we did forget about the process, a lot of it, and we got into plenty of competitive arguments and practices and all that good stuff. Well, that being said, our end goal since we were in 5th grade was to make the state tournament, and that was just kind of our goal. And we got a favorable sub-state. We played Newman Catholic that year, and they lost some guys from the year before, but they still had 2 really, really talented kids. They both went to play baseball at Iowa, actually, Max Burt and Douglas Taylor. They were extremely good athletes, And we got them as kind of our sub-state game, and we kind of knew it was going to be us and them. If nobody got upset, obviously we couldn't overlook anybody.
Yep. No, I get you.
And it's actually funny. Our second round game, we were probably 25-point favorites against North Butler, and at the end of the third quarter, it was a 6-point game, and it was extremely close the whole way through. We couldn't hit a shot. I think we made 1 3 that game, and it was Mason Michaels, who was like our ninth guy in rotation, which he's still really talented. I don't mean to say that to be negative, but we had a bunch of scorers that scored a lot more than him, and we just couldn't get anything to fall that game. But we ended up pulling through, winning, and then we had Newman Catholic at Sub-State. And I wouldn't say we dominated the game by any means, but I would say we controlled it the whole way. We were up 8-10 the whole time, and kind of just in control of things, and we ended up making the state tournament. And man, that feeling of accomplishing that end goal that we had since 5th grade, and just knowing how much work we put into it, and it all was, not that it wouldn't have been for anything if we didn't make the state tournament. Obviously, I don't know how we would have felt, but it was all worth it at that point. We accomplished what we set out to do. We really, really gelled. I think I only had 8 points in the sub-state game, and I think Preston was well under his average, and both of us were just ecstatic as can be. None of us cared. We just wanted to win the game. We had a couple sophomores that stepped up big. Dalton Weepy hit a few big shots. Jacob Snyder, who was a junior, hit a few big shots. Noah Fueling outscored me that game as a sophomore, and he still gives me crap to this day about it. How he was a higher score than me in our sub-state game my senior year, but it just didn't matter. We set out that goal, and we worked really, really hard for it, and we accomplished it. And like I said, it kind of just gave us the feeling of it was all worth it. So I went to play college basketball at Buena Vista. Okay. My introduction was the last game of my high school career was the first game at the state tournament. And that's how I got introduced to the Buena Vista coaches. They were scouting West Harrison's leading scorer, and they said at halftime of the game, they looked me up on Twitter, followed me, and then called me about a week after the game.
That's awesome. I love that. We were here for this guy, but hang on, who's this kid?
Right. And
I love that.
And that's one of my favorite stories to kind of tell the kids that I coach now. It wasn't all my assists. It wasn't leading Iowa in assists for 3 years. It wasn't setting the records. It wasn't, I think I finished top 10 for career assist in Iowa high school basketball history, not just Dunkerton, just anybody that's ever played high school basketball in Iowa. And it wasn't any of that stuff. It was getting to the state tournament, us being down a lot, and me just competing and just being a competitor. And that's kind of something, one of my biggest coaching points is I have an 8th grade team that's really talented, and I have an 8th grade team that's really small. I tell them the same thing all the time. Just compete. You have to be competing, whether you're up 40, down 40, any of that. So that's kind of a story that I like to tell. Okay. I like to tell a lot of the kids. It wasn't any of the cool, flashy stuff or the stats or anything like that. It was just competing, just trying to compete. Yeah. So then it was really between the University of Dubuque and Buena Vista, and Dubuque said that they were a gritty defensive team, and Buena Vista said they like to score a lot of points and run in transition. And with me being the person that I was at the time, I loved to hear that. It made the choice really easy. I love to play fast. I think Dunkerton and Kuntz liked to play fast. Our coach, I think we led the state in scoring for my junior and senior year, so we love to play fast. And when the Buena Vista coach kind of said that on my visit there, I basically kind of committed in my mind at that point to Buena Vista. I would say at Buena Vista my freshman year, I didn't have a jersey. There were, I don't know, maybe 25 guys, and 23 of them had a jersey, and I was one of the very few that didn't, and that was a completely new perspective in my basketball world. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I started varsity from freshman up, and to not have a jersey and to not travel to away games, I mean, it was brutal. It definitely was very, very motivating, and that's kind of where it clicked for me, where if you slack off in other aspects of your life, I wasn't a big lifter. Like I told you, I didn't really try very hard in other sports. I had all A's and B's in high school, but I definitely didn't apply myself as much as I could have. And it was at that point where I kind of had to make a choice to fully buy into it and I was going to lift as hard as I could. Which I hated, and I still struggle to get into the weight room today.
Yeah.
But as a player, it was that time in my career to either make a turning point, or maybe it wasn't for me, and I was all in. So I started lifting really, really hard. I had weekly meetings with the coaches and asked what to improve on and all this stuff. Finished up my freshman year. I got a jersey my freshman year, and I will never forget getting the text from the coach. I was at lunch. I actually think I was eating lunch by myself that day, and I couldn't eat, lost all my appetite. Tears filled my eyes. It was seriously a very similar feeling to when we made the state tournament. Like, it was like, holy cow, like this is a huge
I did it,
step.
man.
Yeah. So that I'm very blessed to have that opportunity, though, or to have that experience, I should say. It just brought me a new perspective. You know, I can say that I was the star for 4 years, and I can say that I was the last guy on the bench, and I didn't even make the bench for some of the games.
Yep.
So it was really interesting to see that perspective and to learn from that perspective and to get that experience.
Sure.
I think that experience was just as important to who I am today as the Dunkerton experience and all that good stuff.
Yeah,
And
I agree.
yeah, absolutely. And then, so I really, really worked hard that summer in the weight room. Off the dribble threes, I took a lot of off the dribble mid ranges, and my college coach wanted me to change that to off the dribble threes. So that was the hardest I've ever worked in a summer. I was in the weight room all the time. I was doing the high school list with Bryce, but trying to make them as hard as I possibly could. And just fully bought in. And I got back that sophomore year, and Carter Seavers, one of my great buddies, actually started as a point guard, or as a freshman at Buena Vista.
Okay.
Point guard, yeah. So me and him always competed, and I felt like I was really narrowing that gap between us that sophomore year, and it was all out of good competition, though. Like I said, all of the teammates that I had at Buena Vista were just awesome. I talk to them all the time. I still go back some of the weekends just to hang out with them and see them again. And I'm going to go watch them at Wartburg this next Wednesday. And I talk to them guys all the time. They're a great group of guys. Yep.
Cool.
And then so that sophomore year, I felt like a lot of the work paid off. Sadly, it didn't translate to opportunity the way I wanted it to. And that was kind of when I fell out of the love for it playing. I was coaching in the summers at that point, and I really, really liked that aspect of it. And like I said, it was the hardest I ever worked in a summer. Got to college, it didn't translate fully into opportunity the way I wanted it to, so I had to make the choice. It was the first time I was ever at a basketball practice watching the clock go forward and just waiting for the end. And I've never felt like that in my entire life.
Yeah.
So I kind of just fell out of love with the grind. I don't know if it was the translating over, and I don't know if it was God telling me, hey, like you have an awesome opportunity coming up.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was a little bit of both, but it led me to the AAU stuff. So I transferred back at that semester. So I was there for the first semester my sophomore year, played, and then it wasn't translating. Transferred to Hawkeye Community College the next semester, and really just got into training kids one-on-one. Landon Molds I work with all the time from Wapsie Valley.
Yeah.
So I've been keeping up to date with a lot of his athletics and the Wapsie athletics because of him.
Sure.
So I really got into kind of that aspect of things and just dove into it. And actually, when I started working with kids one-on-one was my junior summer. But it was only like one or two girls that she plays right now. Kylie Pexa, her mom reached out to me and asked if I could do lessons with her. And I was kind of like, I don't know, whatever. But then I did, and she's really, really talented. And I'll just the feeling of helping a kid reach their goal and see their potential that they didn't see before is one of the most fulfilling feelings I've ever felt in my entire life. And I kind of fell in love with that coaching aspect of things. Then, so like I said, I transferred back to Hawkeye. I now go to UNI just for business, business finance. And that summer, I coached my little brother's Iowa prep team. And we were in, excuse me. So that summer, I coached my brother's Iowa prep team. And they were loaded. They had a ton of really, really good talent. Yeah. And at that point, it was going into their 8th grade year, the summer. and I had I had two 6'5" kids
Oh, geez.
coming out of 7th grade.
Wow.
Yeah, and just a bunch of talented guards and big guards. Like, I get in the huddle, I still coach that group, which we'll get to. And I'm in the huddle, and I'm a 21-year-old, and I am like the 4th shortest guy in the huddle of 11 kids, 8th graders. And it's just unreal how skilled they are and how hard they work and how good their mentality is. And so I coached them for Iowa Prep. That would have been last summer. And this winter, Iowa Prep closed their doors. The Skirring family just kind of got old. All their kids came through it, and they were just kind of ready to be done. And they didn't sell it. They didn't have somebody else run it. They just closed their doors, which is fine. You know, that's absolutely their choice, and that's something hopefully I get to make the decision on with my program nowadays. So I was just going program to program, trying to see, you know, who I could coach for next, and where Kyler would want to play. Kyler, my little brother. And all this stuff, and the kids were going program to program and asking me where I was going to coach and all this stuff, and I just couldn't find a great fit, and it sounded like a lot of the kids couldn't find a great fit. So my plan initially for this winter was to have one team, and it was just going to be local kids, and it was just so Kyler had somewhere to play.
Okay.
The Cedar Rapids parents, Lucas Heller, he's now 6'7" as an 8th grader, and he dunked in our first. He was dunking in our first AAU tournament, and he's an awesome kid with an awesome family. So his dad calls me and says that the tryouts that they've been going to just haven't been great. They're not really liking the vibe at a lot of the programs, and I'm not going to name the programs because I don't want to give any bad shade anywhere. But there's some good programs, like there's some I should say historic AAU programs in Iowa.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of shocked. I'm kind of like, really, like you want me to, like, you are going to these trials. They're telling you that you can make the team at all these big programs, and he's calling me and asking me to like if I could coach them. And I originally told them no. And it sounds like he talked with a lot of the parents of that group, and they called me back and were like, hey, we're going to organize a place to practice in Cedar Rapids. Please coach these guys. and so eventually I gave in, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I will. And
all right.
So we have an awesome group this winter. I have that team out of Cedar Rapids. There's 2 Linn-Mar boys that are extremely talented. 3 Cedar Rapids Kennedy boys that are extremely talented. That includes the 6'7" Lucas. And there's a couple Xavier kids that are really talented that play on that team. And they're just an awesome group. We went to an all-Iowa Attack tournament, and they're, in my opinion, the best program in Iowa, in my program. With Caitlin Clark played for them on their girls' side, and it kind of really just helped explode everything.
Sure.
Harrison Barnes, a longtime NBA player, he played for them.
Okay.
Growing up, obviously that was a long time ago, but we went to one of their tournaments just recently with this group, and it was kind of the first huge tournament that this group played in, and we played all Iowa Tech's Nike EYBL team and their top team, and we were down 1 with 1 minute left and ended up losing by 4 in a very, very competitive game. So these kids can really, really play. I got very lucky with this group of boys. And that's kind of where we are this winter. I have that group. I have the local team that I set out to start for this winter with 5 Dunkerton kids on it, 1 Denver kid, 2 Jessup kids, and a Waterloo 6th grader who's awesome. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Okay, so when you say AAU, so you run Pure Point. Well, explain to some of us who aren't as knowledgeable. You're coaching the teams, or you're running like the league, the organization, and coaching the teams?
Okay, so AAU is a very broad term. There are a lot of AAU programs and a lot of AAU tournaments, and really what it means is you're playing club basketball.
Okay.
So Pure Point Basketball is the club that I run.
Okay.
And then there are different teams in the club, and there are different tournaments all over the place, like I said. And there's kind of, I would say there's a handful of organizations and clubs and tournaments that have good reputations. You know, once you go to travel basketball, I feel like it's very easy to tell what programs, what tournaments, what organizations are worried about the right versus wrong things.
Okay.
And that's something you learn when you get into that world.
Okay.
Maybe because I played AAU for so long and now coach it a ton, that I can kind of decipher maybe a little bit easier, but I think it is easy to tell when programs and tournaments are money grabs or versus when they're genuinely trying to help the youth sports.
Okay.
I would say our goal is to set them up for college basketball, but I don't want to limit it to college basketball. I want to set kids up to see how hard work pays off.
Okay.
No matter what level you are, no matter whether you're up 40, down 40, tied, championship game, last place game, are you going to go out there and be the best teammate you can be? Are you going to go out there and compete at the maximum level that you can? That's kind of our focus, and what me and my coaching staff try to project to the kids is that process-driven mentality.
Yeah.
The outcome doesn't always matter a ton. It's how can you handle adversity? How tough are you? How well can you bounce back? How good of a teammate can you be when you just miss 4 or 5 layups in a row? Stuff like that.
Sure.
And really try to gauge them based off how well they played, based off that versus just the box score stuff.
Okay.
So that's kind of our focus. And so hopefully what that translates to is when they get to high school and when they get to college and when these guys are extremely gifted and teams put scouting reports to stop these guys and what do they do well and what do they not do well, and they send double teams. How well can you read that situation? How else can you impact the game? How, like I said, what reads can you make? How good of a teammate are you being if you're getting face guarded and double teamed all game?
Gotcha.
Kind of that stuff, because I feel like that's what translates, like I said, to not only high level college athletes, but just high level men, high level individuals.
There you go.
People that can handle adversity and all that good stuff.
I like it. Yeah, there's a lot more to sports. You can say high level sports and this and that, but like Ed Thomas said, the famous coach from Appleton Parkersburg, if all I taught you how to do was block and tackle, then I failed you as a coach.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you're going to be a young man at some point, and he wanted to create good young men, godly young men. So if people are interested in Pure Point and AAU sports, and whether they're new or they actually, who knows? I'm sure everyone who's in the basketball world knows about your program and knows how to get involved and are playing in these tournaments. But how can people follow you, connect with you if they're interested?
Yeah, I would say social media. Pure Point Basketball, you can search it up on any social media. I'm trying to really get that out there and contact me through that. Or our Gmail is just purepointbasketball@gmail.com.
Okay.
So those are kind of the ways to reach out to me if you guys are interested or anything like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, as we wrap up, we're a little over on time, so we'll see how editing works and we'll see how much of this I can get in there. But I jotted down a few questions. Where'd the name come from, Pure Point Basketball?
You know, to be honest, I kind of just thought of it last minute. One of my favorite compliments to get was to be a pure point guard, and I thought that just reflected well as being a leader and a teammate and unselfish, and I feel like that's how a true point guard should be.
Who would win right now one-on-one, you or Brungard?
As a competitor, I cannot say that I would lose a one-on-one to anybody. I like it. If anybody disagrees with that, then we can roll a ball out on a court. Just the competitor in me. In terms of it being Brian Brungard, I am never going to shortcut him. He's the guy. He's the guy I'm still chasing. So
how many of your records still stand? Do you know?
So,
any of them been broken that you know of?
Me and Brungard tied for points in a game with 46. I had that against Denver. So that one is still standing with me and Brungard, but that's not technically mine. I'll give him that one because he had it first. All of my assist records stand. I think it's 18 I got in a game, 232 in a season, and then like 697 for a career. All of those still stand at Dunkerton. I tied Zach Johnson for the record for most three-pointers made in a game, and that was the 46-point game at Denver. And then literally 3 games later, a sophomore that played with us, Dylan Marquardt, one of the best shooters I've ever played with in my life, had 8 threes in the first half. I think it was against GMG, and we came out, and I was like, all right, there's a chance they face guard him because I'm not going to not throw him the ball to not break my record as much as I do like having the records and that good stuff. But I was like, all right, there's a chance they come out and face guard and all this good stuff. And I don't know what it was about that game, but they just came out in the second half and left him open again. So he ended up having 11 that game, and that record still stands. I don't know if anybody will 11's a ton of threes in a game.
Wow.
So, yeah, that one got broken. The 3-pointers in a game, but all of my assist records still stand. Hopefully they stand for a while. A lot of them are are really high ranking with even the Iowa record stuff.
Sure.
And that was something that I was chasing as well. I think the game one is top 15. The season one is top 12, I think, and the career is top 10. So they're all pretty high up there.
Okay.
But I do hope that a lot of the Dunkerton kids I coach right now chase those and try to break them. I mean, that's what they're there for.
Have that same mentality that you
absolutely.
did. Go after it. Go after
Absolutely.
it. That's right. I tell a lot of young athletes, like, push yourself as hard as you possibly can. Take the road less traveled. Make the good choices. Make the sacrifices needed. And see where it'll take you, see where it'll end up. There's no better feeling in the world than surprising yourself, thinking, I didn't think I could do that, but I just did the process. I worked as hard as I could. I said no to smoking and drinking and partying and all these other things that aren't good for me. And I just kept pushing towards that goal. And I didn't think I could get here. And then they did. There's no better feeling, even as a grown-up, than surprising yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And that was that feeling I was talking about earlier, is just getting the kids to buy into that tough path. And hopefully me talking about the records and stuff and me chasing those and me being proud of those, I hope that doesn't come off as arrogant, because they really are there. I hope my little brother Kyler right now, he's starting to become a really solid passer, and I hope he does chase those records, and I hope he has those same mentalities. That's ultimately what they're there for, is for kids to look up to those and try to break them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a perfect lead into my last question here. When I think about young athletes and hearing, we pretty much focused all on, you're a young guy, so pretty much your whole life has been basketball and sports. So to me, I understand, no, this doesn't come off as arrogant. Other people that maybe they'll take it that way, but it's like, guys, I'm not talking to a 40-year-old who's got all this family and life experience. That's been his life. And it led to a door closing and another door opening from playing to coaching. And so I can see your life story. I can see it pretty clear.
Yeah.
But it leads me to think, like, when I start talking about kids who are successful or maybe their team isn't successful, but they're super gifted, it seems like they need to be told that, hey, your value, and even your value, isn't in how good of a basketball player you were. And it's not in your records, but in your physical ability, your value isn't in that. Our value as human beings is because we're made in the image of God. So I'm kind of just wondering, and I've got players in my mind that I need to get that message to, because there's kids that are competing at a high level, but they're struggling with pressure and expectations. They need to be reminded. It doesn't matter how you perform. We want you to do the best you can. But if you couldn't play that sport starting tomorrow, you're still just as valuable to your Creator as you are right now. So take that pressure off. So my question to you is, when did Jesus enter the picture for you? Because that's the message I try and take to kids, to adults, to some of these kids as parents. They need to hear that. But when does that come in?
Yeah, man, that's an awesome question, and I hope that people made it this far. Sorry for taking you overboard. I tend to talk a lot when we get to these things. But so one of the stories I also like to tell, especially when I'm talking about Christianity, and like you said, that our value to God is not based off of really much of anything that we do here other than loving people. So one of the things I like to tell is, as an athlete, I was always chasing that stuff. When I started as a freshman, I got home that night and I was like, all right, well, kind of just on to the next thing. It didn't matter, it didn't ultimately fulfill me.
Yeah.
And once I broke the records my sophomore year, the season and game records my sophomore year, I got home after that night, and I was like, all right, well, that was cool. What now? And I was raised in a Christian household. My dad is saved, and Jesus really changed his life in some major ways. But I would say that I fell into the stereotypical lukewarm Christianity, kind of go to church because you believe in it, believe that Jesus died for our sins, and then you're good.
Yep.
Right. I wouldn't say I had a relationship with Christ all the way through probably my freshman year of college. And like I said, I was chasing these things, and when I accomplished them and when my basketball goals got fulfilled, at the end of the day, I would go home and be like, man, why am I not fulfilled? Why does this not feel as good as I thought it did? And I don't mean that in terms of I wasn't proud of our accomplishments that we accomplished as a team, but it was, man, why do me as a human being I just accomplished the goals that I've had set out since 5th grade. Like, what is going on? Like, why do I not feel fulfilled?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just didn't know, and I battled and I didn't understand what it was. And then it was not this summer that just happened, but the summer before me. So I've had a girlfriend, Alexis Lewis, since my junior year, and she's just awesome. I'm still with her today, but that summer we kind of ran into a rough point. And I went from, kind of always having her by my side. We broke up that summer, and it was just me. And I moved back into my parents' house, and I was at college still, so it was in the summer. That's why I was at my parents' house. And I didn't know what else to do other than to kind of turn to my parents. So I don't have a ton of serious conversations with my parents.
Okay.
I don't know what it was. Like I said, I think a lot of it was just kind of, I fell into the stereotypical athlete, proud of myself, and obviously kids never think that their parents know best, even though they do a lot of the time. And so I had that conversation with my dad, and just kind of like, dude, like, what do I do? Like, I'm really struggling through this. And he was like, talk to God. And that's kind of, he's always said it to me, like growing up, I was like, Dad, I can't sleep. Well, talk to God, because that's what he did. And that's what helped him. And I just kind of, I never understood it. Because like I said, I don't think I had that relationship with him.
Yeah.
When I was at church, I was waiting for it to be over and just thought it was boring and all this stuff. And that summer, it really kind of, like I said, he said, talk to God, read the Bible, all this stuff. So I opened up my Bible that I've had since I was a kid that I never really got into, and I just started to read it. And I just started to read it and understand it and truly learn it, and not just, memorize passages or all this stuff. It was like, okay, why is this? Okay, what's the backstory of this?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm looking stuff up, and I'm seeing things, and it's just one of the most beautiful things in the world to know that our shortcomings are taken care of.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter. Like, one of the biggest things in the Bible and in Christianity is pride is the killer of joy. If we think that, if we put ourselves on a pedestal and we think we're better than other people, when we have those sins and we have those shortcomings, like, that's how we judge ourselves off of. When you understand that Christ died for our shortcomings and our sins, and everybody is made in the image of God, and we're not special in terms of worth less than anybody, but like the Bible says all the time, how you treat the least of people is how you treat Jesus.
Yeah.
And there is so much beauty in that. And I think what you do with this podcast is special, because you have talks with these people and you're like, okay, they're not that bad of a person. They had different backgrounds. They had this, they had that. And that's something I'm learning. I'm seeing in kids every day in the AAU program that I'm really grateful for, is seeing all these backgrounds and be like, man, I've had a lot of blessed opportunities that these kids don't have, or some of them don't have. And it's just so humbling to understand that I'm not responsible for any of the things I've accomplished. It's not me. It is all of the glory to God. My parents, my family, my girlfriend Alexis has helped me out a ton with a million different things. My friends, my teammates, just seeing the image of God in everybody else is truly the most fulfilling thing that you can have. When I started to read the Bible that summer, you just start to see the world in a different way.
You do.
It completely changes the way you look at everything, and it is so much more fulfilling. And I would trade all my accomplishments and all of the basketball stuff and everything just for the like, if like you said, if I just taught them how to box out and shoot a 3-pointer, I didn't do my job. I didn't do my job. And a lot of the stuff doesn't even necessarily, it's not just preaching at practices. It's how are you reflecting the image of God?
Yeah, how do you just live? How do you live it out?
Yeah, exactly. And the kids that maybe can't afford to play, how do you treat them and their families? Are you genuinely doing your best to still help them?
Yeah.
Because like I said, if I grew up in a family that didn't know basketball, what person would I be today?
Yep.
Like you said.
Yep.
So that was another lengthy answer to that question. But I feel like
right.
if people get anything from that, it's that you find that fulfillment in the Bible. You find that fulfillment in your relationship with God and Jesus, and spreading love and seeing God's image in everything. everybody
Yeah.
and all the, even not even people, but just nature. Just go outside. And one of my favorite things to do nowadays is, after reading the Bible or listening to worship music, is just walking outside and just looking around and being like, silly me to put myself or anything on a pedestal over the creator of all of this.
Yep. It ain't all about us. It ain't all about us. The sooner we realize that, the better we are. But yeah, you're right. That's my big thing I'm looking for is a lot of people ran into religion and thought, well, if I do this and do this and do this, well, then I got to be right with God, and that's going to pay off for me in the end. And you're missing the relationship. That ain't how it works. The Bible tells us you can't earn it. It says you're saved by grace through faith, man. Know that we're sinners, know that we got shortcomings, and know that Jesus already paid the price, went to the cross, and rose again. You repent of that sin and put your faith in that, then you're forgiven. Then your eternity's secure, and then the Holy Spirit lives in you, and you start to want to read the Bible. You start to want to live out the Christian faith, show it to other people, and do these. There's all kinds of fruit that comes from that. So I was kind of hoping that the pure point back, okay, maybe that was a Bible thing. No, okay, it wasn't. But
No, it wasn't.
We still got there. I love it.
Oh, absolutely. And the last thing I'll say, one of my favorite but scariest Bible verses is the man who got to heaven and said, hey, didn't I cast out demons in your name? Didn't I worship you? Didn't I do all this stuff? And Jesus says, be apart from me, I never knew you. And the background of that story is, you can't show up to heaven with a list of things you did, because like you said, you can't earn it.
It ain't about what you did.
It's not about what you did.
It's about what he did.
Absolutely.
And do you accept that or not? So yeah, coming off Christmas, I was telling people, bro, it's a gift. It's there for you. You just got to accept it.
Yep.
And another thing I was trying to tell people, I was like, bro, God doesn't send anybody to hell. We got to stop saying that. He doesn't send people right now. They choose to reject God. Say, nah, I don't want him in my life. Nah, I'm not a sinner. I'm not bad. They reject him, and God honors that for all of eternity.
That's the free
That's
will.
all it is. That's right, man. So
Absolutely.
all right. Well, guys, I think that's going to do it for part 1 with Casey Gardner. I hope his story and the things he shared, I hope it encouraged you, maybe challenged you. I mean, he is a coach. He is about challenging and trying to pull out the best in people and push them. So maybe he enlightened you or challenged you, especially at the end. When you start talking, it's a relationship with Jesus rather than a religion. That's my world. That's the message that enlightens and challenges people, okay? Don't just sit in the pew on Sunday. You know, that's First Baptist Church Dunkerton's motto right there. Make Christ known. Take it outside the 4 walls. Let the Awana kids in on Wednesday night. I'll give a shout out to our First Baptist Church Awana program. We shifted gears this year. And instead of trying to go through handbooks and pass verse, learn this verse as fast as you can, and then nothing sticks, they slowed everything down, said, let's do some 5 to 10 core verses throughout the entire. Let's get kids to know these verses, know what they mean, and know how to apply them. And that's it. So what if it's only 5 or 10 verses? They know them. They're in their heart. They can use them. So I love that. I love that stuff. Like I said, guys, everyone has a story to tell or an experience to share, and that's what we do here. We let people share what life's been like for them. So this isn't going to be the end of Casey's episode. There's going to be a part 2 coming out in the next week or 2. So we're going to get into his segments. We're going to have some laughs, I'm sure, but we're also going to get into some serious topics like the impact that youth sports is having. You heard him mention travel ball. There's a lot of people on both sides of the fence on what good it's doing and what bad it's doing. So we're going to get into some of that. You don't want to miss it. Be sure and come back. If you enjoyed this episode, I challenge you to share it. As soon as it's over, share it. If you liked it, why wouldn't you share it? At least with family and friends. We're growing every day, so please like, follow, subscribe, share wherever you listen or watch podcasts. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff. It's all kinds of pictures, encouraging reels, stuff like that there. If you got questions, comments, ideas, or you want to be a guest possibly in the future, maybe you want some What Is Up merch, I don't know, like my guest today is leaving with a What Is Up shirt. Email me, whatisuppodcast@gmail.com. But if you need help with something or you want to talk deeper about anything you heard here today, just reach out. I'll respond any way and help any way I can. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Your support means a lot to me and my family. Lord willing, I'll talk to you on the next one.
I appreciate you having me. Like you said, make sure to like, comment, share it. Okay, send it out there. I appreciate you.